The morning mist hung low over Windsor Castle as Queen Camilla prepared for what she believed would be a routine charity visit to the local children's hospital. She had no idea that this ordinary Tuesday would become one of the most significant days in recent royal history. Camilla stood before her bedroom mirror, adjusting the pearl necklace that had belonged to the late Queen Elizabeth. The weight of royal duty pressed upon her shoulders as she prepared to meet dozens of sick children who looked forward to her visit for weeks. Her lady-in-waiting, Margaret, bustled around the room, ensuring every detail of the Queen's appearance met protocol standards. "Your Majesty, the car is ready," Margaret announced softly, glancing at the ornate clock on the mantelpiece. "Detective Inspector Harrison has completed the security briefing, and the route has been cleared." Camilla nodded, gathering her handbag and the carefully wrapped gifts she had personally selected for the children. Each present had been chosen with thought and care, reflecting her genuine desire to bring joy to young patients facing difficult battles with illness. The Queen's personal protection officer, Detective Inspector James Harrison, waited by the black Bentley in the castle's private courtyard. Harrison had served the royal family for 15 years, his sharp eyes and quick reflexes earning him respect among his colleagues. Today, however, something felt different. He couldn't shake the uneasy feeling that had settled in his stomach since receiving the morning's intelligence briefing. Earlier that morning, MI5 had intercepted communications suggesting potential security threats targeting senior royals. The details remained vague, but the intelligence services had raised the threat level from substantial to severe. Harrison knew that such elevations rarely occurred without solid evidence of imminent danger. As Queen Camilla approached the vehicle, Harrison conducted his final security checks. His trained eyes swept over the Bentley's exterior, examining every inch for anything unusual. The car had been in the castle's secure garage overnight, monitored by multiple cameras and guarded by armed officers. Still, protocol demanded thorough inspection before any royal journey. "Good morning, Your Majesty," Harrison greeted with a respectful bow. "I trust you slept well?" Today's schedule includes the hospital visit, followed by the opening of the new community center. Camilla smiled warmly, her genuine affection for the people she served evident in her expression. "Thank you, Harrison. I'm particularly looking forward to meeting young Timothy today. His mother wrote such a touching letter about his battle with leukemia." As they spoke, Harrison's radio crackled with an urgent message from the control room. His face immediately tensed as he listened to the coded communication. The message was brief but alarming. "Potential device detected. Initiate immediate vehicle inspection protocol. Your Majesty, I'm afraid we need to delay departure by a few minutes," Harrison said, his voice maintaining its professional calm despite the racing of his heart. "Standard security procedure requires an additional inspection of the vehicle." Camilla noticed the slight change in Harrison's demeanor. After years in the public eye, she had developed an acute awareness of when situations shifted from routine to potentially serious. "Is everything all right, Harrison?" "I'm certain it will be, ma'am. However, I must ask you to step away from the vehicle while my team conducts a thorough examination." Harrison's hand moved subtly to his radio, sending a silent signal that brought additional security personnel rushing to the courtyard. Within minutes, the peaceful morning atmosphere transformed into a scene of controlled urgency. Specialist officers from the Metropolitan Police's Counterterrorism Command arrived with detection equipment, their movements precise and purposeful. The bomb disposal unit's van appeared at the castle gates, its presence causing a stir among the staff who had gathered to watch the unusual activity. Queen Camilla retreated to the castle's morning room, where she was joined by her private secretary and senior protection officers. Through the tall windows, she could observe the intense activity surrounding her vehicle. The sight of officers in protective gear examining every inch of the Bentley sent a chill down her spine. Harrison coordinated the search operation with military precision. His team had trained for countless scenarios, but the reality of a potential threat against the Queen Consort brought a heightened sense of urgency to their work. Every movement was deliberate, every decision carefully calculated to ensure the safety of the woman they were sworn to protect. The initial external examination revealed nothing suspicious. The Bentley's exterior appeared exactly as it should, with no signs of tampering or unusual attachments. However, the intelligence report had been specific about the nature of the potential threat. requiring a more invasive search of the vehicle's interior and hidden compartments. As the officers prepared to examine the car's interior, Harrison reflected on the countless times he had accompanied Queen Camilla on official engagements. She had always been gracious under pressure, maintaining her composure even when faced with aggressive protesters or unexpected security concerns. Today's situation, however, felt different in its potential severity. The first officer to enter the vehicle began a systematic search of the passenger compartment. Every surface was examined, every crevice inspected with specialized equipment designed to detect explosive materials or electronic devices. The process was methodical and thorough, leaving nothing to chance. As the search progressed, Harrison maintained constant communication with the intelligence services, hoping for additional information that might clarify the nature of the threat. The morning that had begun with such promise now hung heavy with tension and uncertainty. Inside the castle, Queen Camilla waited with characteristic patience, understanding that her safety and the safety of those around her depended entirely on the thoroughness of the security procedures. She thought of the children at the hospital who were eagerly anticipating her visit, hoping that whatever had triggered this security alert would be resolved quickly. The search team's attention turned to the vehicle's less obvious hiding places. They examined the area beneath the seats, behind the door panels, and within the complex electronic systems that controlled the luxury vehicle's various functions. Each component was scrutinized with the understanding that modern threats could be hidden in increasingly sophisticated ways. As the clock ticked toward the scheduled departure time, the tension in the courtyard continued to build. Harrison knew that every minute of delay affected not only the Queen's schedule but also the elaborate security arrangements that had been put in place for the day's events. The search was about to take an unexpected turn that would change everything. Officer Sarah Mitchell had joined the Royal Protection Unit only 6 months earlier, but her keen eye for detail had already earned recognition from her superiors. As she examined the rear passenger area of Queen Camilla's Bentley, she noticed something that the other officers had missed during their initial inspection. The leather upholstery on the back seat appeared to have a slight irregularity in its pattern. To most people, it would have been invisible, but Mitchell's training in forensic examination had taught her to spot even the smallest anomalies. She ran her gloved hand along the seat's surface, feeling for any unusual textures or hidden mechanisms. "Inspector Harrison," Mitchell called out, her voice carrying a note of concern. "I think you should see this." Harrison immediately approached the vehicle, his experienced eyes following Mitchell's pointing finger to the area she had identified. At first glance, the seat appeared normal, but as he looked more closely, he began to see what had caught Mitchell's attention. "The stitching pattern is different here," Mitchell explained, indicating a section approximately 12 inches square near the center of the back seat. "It's subtle, but someone has definitely altered this area of the upholstery." Harrison's pulse quickened as he examined the suspicious area more closely. His years of experience had taught him that such modifications were rarely innocent, especially when discovered during a security sweep triggered by intelligence warnings. He immediately radioed for the bomb disposal team to move closer to the vehicle. "Everyone step back," Harrison commanded, his voice carrying the authority that came with years of protecting the royal family. "We need the explosive ordnance disposal team to examine this area before we proceed further." The courtyard, already tense with security activity, became even more charged as the bomb disposal experts approached the Bentley. Their protective gear and specialized equipment created an almost surreal scene against the backdrop of Windsor Castle's ancient stones. Sergeant David Cooper, the lead bomb disposal technician, had dealt with countless suspicious devices throughout his career. His steady hands and calm demeanor had saved lives in some of London's most dangerous situations. As he approached the royal vehicle, he felt the familiar combination of adrenaline and focused concentration that marked his most critical work. "Talk me through what you found," Cooper said to Mitchell as he began his own examination of the altered upholstery. His trained fingers traced the irregular stitching pattern, feeling for any indication of what might be hidden beneath the leather surface. Cooper's portable X-ray equipment revealed the outline of what appeared to be a rectangular object concealed within the seat's padding. The image showed clearly defined edges and what looked like electronic components, confirming the team's worst fears about the nature of the hidden item. "We have a definite device," Cooper announced, his voice calm despite the gravity of the situation. I can see what appears to be a timing mechanism and possibly explosive material. We need to clear a wider perimeter immediately. The news sent ripples of alarm throughout the security team. Harrison immediately ordered the evacuation of all non-essential personnel from the courtyard area, while maintaining communication with the palace officials who needed to inform Queen Camilla of the developing situation. Inside the castle, Queen Camilla received the news with the stoic composure that had characterized her public life. Her private secretary, Michael Thompson, delivered the update with careful diplomacy, explaining that a suspicious device had been discovered in her vehicle and that the situation was being handled by experts. "How long will this take to resolve?" Camilla asked, her primary concern being the disruption to the day's charitable engagements. The children at the hospital had been looking forward to her visit for weeks, and she hated the thought of disappointing them. "I'm afraid that's difficult to say, Your Majesty," Thompson replied. "The security team is taking every precaution to ensure your safety and the safety of everyone at the castle." Back in the courtyard, Cooper had begun the delicate process of gaining access to the hidden device. Using specialized tools, he carefully separated the modified upholstery to reveal what lay beneath. What he discovered defied all expectations and sent shockwaves through the assembled security team. Instead of the explosive device they had anticipated, Cooper found himself looking at an ornate wooden box, its surface covered with intricate carvings and fitted with a small electronic lock. The X-ray image had shown the lock mechanism and the dense wood as potentially threatening components, but the reality was far different from their worst fears. "This isn't a bomb," Cooper announced, his voice reflecting both relief and bewilderment. "It's some kind of secured container. The electronic signature we detected is coming from a digital locking mechanism." Harrison approached the vehicle again, his mind racing as he tried to understand the implications of this discovery. Why would someone go to such elaborate lengths to hide a wooden box in the Queen's car? What could be inside that warranted such secrecy and security? The box itself was a work of art, clearly crafted by skilled hands. Its dark wood surface bore intricate patterns that seemed to tell a story, though the meaning was unclear to the security personnel examining it. The electronic lock was a modern addition, its digital display showing a series of numbers that appeared to be counting down. "We need to get this to a secure location where we can examine it properly," Harrison decided. "And we need to involve the intelligence services immediately. This level of sophistication suggests we're dealing with something far more complex than a simple security threat." As the mysterious box was carefully removed from the vehicle, questions multiplied faster than answers. Who had placed it there? When had the modification to the seat been made? Most importantly, what secrets did the box contain that someone had gone to such lengths to hide? The castle's senior staff were immediately briefed on the discovery, and within hours, experts from various government agencies had arrived to examine the curious find. Historians, intelligence analysts, and security specialists all contributed their expertise to understanding what had been uncovered. Queen Camilla, informed of the mysterious nature of the discovery, insisted on being kept updated on all developments. Her natural curiosity was piqued by the unusual circumstances, and she found herself wondering about the box's origins and contents. The day's scheduled events were officially postponed, with carefully worded statements issued to the media explaining that security concerns had necessitated changes to the Queen's itinerary. The truth behind the delay, however, remained a closely guarded secret as the investigation into the hidden box began in earnest. As evening approached, the mysterious container sat in a secure examination room deep within the castle, its secret still locked away behind the sophisticated electronic mechanism. The countdown on its digital display continued to tick away, adding an element of urgency to the efforts to understand what they had discovered. Dr. Elizabeth Hartwell arrived at Windsor Castle just as the sun began to set, casting long shadows across the ancient courtyard where the morning's dramatic events had unfolded. As one of Britain's leading experts in historical artifacts and digital security systems, she had been summoned to examine the mysterious box that had brought the royal household to a standstill. Hartwell had spent her career uncovering secrets hidden in historical objects, from medieval manuscripts to Victorian jewelry boxes. Her unique combination of historical knowledge and technical expertise made her the perfect choice to understand both the box's origins and its modern security features. In the secure examination room, She found herself face to face with one of the most intriguing puzzles of her career. The wooden box sat under bright examination lights, its carved surface revealing details that became more fascinating the closer she looked. "The craftsmanship is extraordinary," Hartwell murmured to Harrison, who had remained to oversee the investigation. "These carvings aren't decorative. They're telling a story, and if I'm reading them correctly, it's a story connected to the royal family." The intricate patterns carved into the wood depicted scenes that seemed to span centuries. Hartwell identified symbols associated with various British monarchs, from medieval crowns to more recent royal insignia. The craftsmanship suggested the work of a master artisan, someone with access to royal workshops and intimate knowledge of royal history. "This electronic lock is interesting too," Hartwell continued, examining the modern addition to the ancient-looking box. "It's not just a simple security device. The countdown mechanism suggests it's designed to open automatically at a predetermined time." Harrison studied the digital display, which now showed less than 6 hours remaining before whatever timing sequence would complete. "Do we have any way of determining what happens when it reaches 0? "That's what we need to find out," Hartwell replied, connecting her laptop to specialized scanning equipment. "But first, I want to understand more about the box itself. These carvings are trying to tell us something important." As Hartwell photographed and analyzed each carved detail, a story began to emerge from the wooden surface. The images depicted what appeared to be a secret romance between a royal figure and a commoner, their meetings hidden from public view, their love affair conducted in shadows and secrecy. "This is remarkable," Hartwell said, her voice filled with scholarly excitement. "If these carvings are historically accurate, they're documenting a relationship that was never officially recorded. Look at these symbols here. They represent discretion, hidden meetings, forbidden love." The implications of Hartwell's analysis sent ripples of concern through the security team. If the box contained evidence of a secret royal romance, it could potentially cause significant embarrassment or even political complications for the current royal family. Meanwhile, Queen Camilla had requested a private meeting with Harrison to discuss the day's developments. She received him in her private sitting room, where portraits of previous queens looked down from the walls, their painted eyes seeming to hold secrets of their own. "Harrison, I need to understand what we're dealing with," Camilla said, her voice carrying the weight of someone accustomed to handling difficult situations with grace. "This box was hidden in my personal vehicle, which suggests someone wanted me specifically to find it." Harrison presented his preliminary assessment of the situation, explaining Hartwell's initial findings about the carved story and the mysterious timing mechanism. He could see the Queen's mind working as she processed the information, her years of public service having taught her to consider all possible implications of any situation. "Have we determined when this modification to my car was made?" Camilla asked. "The seat alteration must have required considerable time and skill." "We're reviewing security footage from the garage, Your Majesty," Harrison replied. "The work would have needed to be done by someone with legitimate access to your vehicle, someone familiar with its interior design." This revelation added another layer of complexity to the mystery. The list of people with access to the Queen's personal vehicle was extremely limited, consisting only of trusted mechanics, security personnel, and senior household staff. The idea that one of these individuals might be involved in the plot was deeply troubling. Back in the examination room, Hartwell had made a breakthrough in understanding the carved narrative. Using high-resolution photography and specialized lighting, she had revealed previously hidden details in the wood surface. "The story is about a queen who lived in the shadow of scandal," Hartwell explained to the assembled team, "someone who married into the royal family amid controversy and spent years working to gain public acceptance. The parallels to Queen Camilla's own journey are unmistakable. The realization that the box's story might be directly connected to Camilla's personal history added urgency to the investigation. If someone had gone to such elaborate lengths to hide this box in her vehicle, they clearly had a specific message they wanted to convey." As the countdown continued to tick away, Hartwell focused her attention on the electronic locking mechanism. Her analysis revealed that it was programmed to open at exactly midnight, just a few hours away. The precision of the timing suggested that the date had been carefully chosen for its significance. "We need to be prepared for whatever happens when this box opens," Harrison decided. It could contain documents, photographs, or other materials that someone desperately wants the Queen to see. The security protocols for handling potentially sensitive historical materials were immediately put into place. Additional experts were brought in, including representatives from the Royal Archives and specialists in document preservation. Queen Camilla insisted on being present when the box opened, despite concerns from her security team about potential risks. Her determination to face whatever secrets the box contained reflected the courage that had carried her through decades of public scrutiny. As the evening wore on, the castle took on an atmosphere of expectant tension. Staff members who had been briefed on the situation found themselves checking their watches frequently, aware that midnight would bring answers to questions that had consumed the day. The technical team prepared recording equipment to document whatever the box revealed, while historians stood ready to analyze any documents or artifacts that might emerge. The confluence of ancient secrets and modern technology created a unique moment in royal history. With just 1 hour remaining until the countdown reached 0, Hartwell made a final discovery that changed everything. Hidden beneath layers of wood stain, she found an inscription in Latin that had been invisible until revealed by specialized lighting techniques. The inscription, when translated, read, "For she who understands the burden of love denied and the courage to persist despite condemnation." The words seemed to speak directly to Camilla's own experience of finding love later in life and facing public criticism with dignity and grace. As midnight approached, everyone involved in the investigation gathered in the secure room, ready to witness the resolution of one of the most unusual security incidents in royal history. The secure examination room fell silent as the digital countdown reached its final minute. Queen Camilla stood beside Dr. Hartwell, her composed exterior masking the emotional turmoil she felt as the mysterious box prepared to reveal its secrets. Harrison and his security team maintained their protective positions, while historians and technical experts readied their equipment to document whatever emerged. At exactly midnight, the electronic lock emitted a soft chime and the wooden lid slowly opened with a gentle mechanical hiss. Inside, nestled in midnight blue velvet, lay a collection of items that would forever change how the royal family understood their own history. The first item that caught everyone's attention was a leather-bound journal, its pages yellowed with age but remarkably well preserved. Beside it lay a collection of letters tied with a faded ribbon, several photographs, and a small jewelry box containing what appeared to be a simple gold ring. Dr. Hartwell, wearing white cotton gloves, carefully lifted the journal from its velvet bed. The leather cover bore no title or identifying marks, but as she opened to the first page, her breath caught in her throat. Written in elegant script was the name Alexandra Caroline and the date 1923. "This belongs to Queen Alexandra Caroline," Hartwell whispered, her voice filled with awe. "She was King George VI's youngest sister, but there's virtually no historical record of her after 1924. She simply disappeared from all official documents and family records." Queen Camilla leaned closer, recognizing the implications immediately. A missing royal family member represented a gap in history that historians had puzzled over for decades. The fact that this journal had been hidden away suggested that Alexandra Caroline's disappearance was more significant than anyone had realized. As Hartwell carefully turned the journal's pages, a story of forbidden love and personal sacrifice began to unfold. Alexandra Caroline's entries revealed her deep affection for Thomas Whitmore, a commoner who worked as a landscape architect for the royal estates. Their romance had blossomed during the design of the gardens at Sandringham, conducted in secret meetings among the very flowers and pathways they created together. "Listen to this entry from June 1923, Hartwell read aloud. "Today Thomas and I walked through the rose garden we designed together. He spoke of a future where love might triumph over duty, but I fear such dreams are not meant for those born to royal obligation. Yet my heart refuses to accept that happiness should be sacrificed for tradition." The journal entries painted a picture of a young woman torn between personal happiness and royal duty. Alexandra Caroline wrote eloquently about her struggles with the expectations placed upon her, her desire for a normal life, and her growing love for a man who could never be accepted by the royal family. Harrison studied the photographs that had been included in the box. They showed a radiant young woman with striking features, always photographed alongside a tall, handsome man with kind eyes. The informal nature of the photographs suggested they had been taken in private moments, away from the formal protocols of royal life. "These must be Alexandra Caroline and Thomas Whitmore," Harrison observed. "The affection between them is obvious even in these old photographs." The letters proved to be correspondence between the lovers, documenting their plans to leave England together and create a new life in America. Thomas had apparently secured a position with a prominent American family, who were creating elaborate gardens on their Long Island estate. The letters spoke of hope, fear, and an unwavering commitment to their love despite impossible circumstances. Queen Camilla found herself deeply moved by the parallels between Alexandra Caroline's story and her own journey to love and acceptance. The young princess had faced condemnation for loving someone deemed unsuitable, just as Camilla had experienced decades later when her relationship with Charles became public knowledge. "There's something else here," Dr. Hartwell announced, discovering a sealed envelope that had been hidden beneath the journal. The envelope bore the royal seal and was addressed simply to "My successor in understanding." With trembling hands, Camilla opened the envelope and unfolded a letter written in the same elegant script as the journal entries. The message inside spoke directly to her across the decades, as if Alexandra Caroline had somehow foreseen the future and prepared words of comfort for another woman who would face similar challenges. The letter read, "To the woman who will one day understand the burden of loving where society forbids, know that courage is not the absence of fear, but the decision that something else is more important than fear. I chose love over duty, happiness over acceptance, and though history may forget my name, I never regretted my choice. You too will face judgment, but remember that the heart knows truths that tradition cannot understand." The emotional impact of Alexandra Caroline's words brought tears to Camilla's eyes. Here was validation from someone who had walked a similar path nearly a century earlier. Someone who understood the pain of being criticized for matters of the heart. But the most shocking revelation was yet to come. At the bottom of the box, Dr. Hartwell discovered a marriage certificate dated September 15, 1924, showing that Alexandra Caroline and Thomas Whitmore had indeed married in a small ceremony in New York. The certificate bore the signatures of witnesses and had been properly notarized, making it a legal document. "This changes everything," Hartwell said, the historical significance sinking in. Alexandra Caroline didn't just disappear, she emigrated to America and married the man she loved. The royal family must have covered up her departure to avoid scandal. Further documents revealed that Alexandra Caroline and Thomas had indeed built a successful life together in America. They had established a landscape architecture firm that designed gardens for some of the wealthiest families on the East Coast. Most remarkably, they had raised 3 children together, creating a previously unknown branch of the royal family tree. The final document in the collection was perhaps the most moving of all. It was a letter from Alexandra Caroline to her brother King George V, written shortly before her death in 1967. In it, she expressed her love for her family despite their estrangement and her hope that future generations might be more understanding of love that defied convention. "I have lived a full and happy life," the letter stated. "Thomas and I created something beautiful together, not just in our gardens but in our love and our family. I pray that someday the royal family will find room in their hearts for love that doesn't fit traditional expectations." The discovery of Alexandra Caroline's story provided Queen Camilla with a profound sense of connection to royal history. Here was proof that she was not the first woman to face criticism for her romantic choices, and that love could indeed triumph over adversity when pursued with courage and conviction. As the team carefully catalogued and preserved each item from the mysterious box, questions arose about who had arranged for this discovery and why they had chosen this particular moment to reveal Alexandra Caroline's story. The sophisticated planning required to modify Camilla's vehicle and time the box's opening suggested someone with intimate knowledge of both royal history and current circumstances. The revelation that Queen Camilla was not alone in her journey through controversy to acceptance would soon reshape how the royal family understood their own legacy of love, sacrifice, and personal courage. The investigation into who had orchestrated the elaborate plan to deliver Alexandra Caroline's story to Queen Camilla began immediately after the box's contents were catalogued. Harrison coordinated with MI5 and the Metropolitan Police to analyze every aspect of the operation, from the vehicle modification to the timing of the discovery. The security footage from the castle's garage revealed a startling truth. The modification to Queen Camilla's Bentley had been made not by an intruder or suspicious outsider, but by someone with the highest level of security clearance and intimate knowledge of royal protocols. The cameras showed royal household staff member Margaret Thornfield working alone in the garage during the early hours of a Tuesday morning 3 weeks earlier. Margaret had served the royal family for over 30 years, first as a junior seamstress and eventually rising to become one of the Queen's most trusted personal assistants. Margaret has impeccable credentials, Harrison explained to Queen Camilla during their morning briefing. She's undergone regular security reviews and has never shown any signs of disloyalty or unusual behavior. This makes her involvement even more puzzling. Queen Camilla's reaction to learning of Margaret's involvement was one of profound sadness rather than anger. Margaret had been with her through some of the most difficult periods of her public life, providing comfort and support when media criticism was at its most severe. I need to speak with Margaret personally, Camilla decided. There must be an explanation for why she would go to such elaborate lengths to share this story with me. Margaret Thornfield was found in her small apartment in Windsor, calmly tending to her garden as if nothing unusual had occurred. When approached by security officers, she showed no surprise at their arrival and agreed to accompany them to the castle without resistance. In the comfortable drawing room where they had shared countless conversations over the years, Queen Camilla found herself facing a woman whose loyalty she had never questioned. Margaret sat with the same composed dignity that had characterized her decades of royal service, her silver hair neatly arranged and her hands folded peacefully in her lap. "Margaret, I need you to help me understand why you did this," Camilla began gently. "The story of Alexandra Caroline has touched me deeply, but the manner of its delivery has caused considerable concern among the security staff." Margaret's eyes filled with tears, but her voice remained steady as she began to explain her actions. "Your Majesty, I have watched you endure years of criticism and judgment for following your heart. I have seen the pain in your eyes when people speak cruelly about your marriage to Prince Charles, and I could no longer remain silent when I knew there was a story that could bring you comfort." The elderly woman reached into her handbag and withdrew a faded photograph showing herself as a young girl standing beside an elegant woman in 1940s clothing. "This is my grandmother, Rose Whitmore. She was the daughter of Thomas Whitmore and Princess Alexandra Caroline." The revelation sent shockwaves through the room. Margaret Thornfield was not simply a loyal household staff member who had discovered a historical secret. She was a direct descendant of the hidden royal romance that had caused such scandal nearly a century earlier. "My grandmother told me the story when I was 12 years old," Margaret continued. "She made me promise to keep it secret until the right moment came to share it. She said that someday, another woman in the royal family would face similar challenges, and when that time came, Alexandra Caroline's story might provide comfort and strength." Margaret explained that her grandmother had maintained careful records of their family's royal heritage, including all the documents and photographs that had been sealed in the wooden box. Rose Whitmore had been proud of her parents' courage in choosing love over duty, but she understood the need to keep their story hidden during an era when royal scandal could have devastating consequences. "When I saw how much you suffered during the difficult years, especially after your marriage to Prince Charles, I knew the time had come," Margaret said. "My grandmother always believed that love should triumph over judgment, and she wanted her mother's story to inspire others who faced similar challenges." The emotional weight of Margaret's explanation moved Queen Camilla deeply. To learn that she had been unknowingly cared for by a descendant of a previous royal love story seemed almost too extraordinary to believe. Yet the evidence was undeniable. "The box and the timing mechanism were my own additions," Margaret admitted. "I wanted to ensure that the story would be discovered in a way that commanded attention and respect. I knew that if I simply presented the documents directly, they might be dismissed or filed away without proper consideration." Harrison, who had been listening intently to Margaret's explanation, found himself admiring the elaborate planning that had gone into the operation. The modification to the Queen's vehicle, the sophisticated locking mechanism, and the careful timing of the discovery all demonstrated remarkable attention to detail and deep understanding of royal protocols. "Margaret, you do realize that what you did could be considered a serious security breach," Harrison said. though his tone carried more admiration than condemnation. Modifying the Queen's vehicle without authorization is a violation of multiple security protocols. Margaret nodded solemnly. I accept full responsibility for my actions, Inspector Harrison. I knew the risks, but I felt that the importance of sharing Alexandra Caroline's story outweighed my concerns about security procedures. I never intended to cause alarm or put anyone in danger. Queen Camilla stood and walked to the window, gazing out at the gardens where generations of royals had walked before her. The knowledge that she was not the first to face judgment for matters of the heart brought her a sense of peace she hadn't felt in years. Margaret, you have given me an incredible gift, Camilla said, turning back to face her longtime companion. Alexandra Caroline's story provides a perspective on royal duty and personal happiness that I desperately needed to hear. The discussion turned to what should be done with the newly discovered historical information. The documents clearly established the existence of an American branch of the royal family that had been hidden for nearly a century. The descendants of Princess Alexandra Caroline and Thomas Whitmore were now American citizens, with no knowledge of their royal heritage. Dr. Hartwell, who had been researching the family lineage, reported that she had located several potential descendants still living in the New York area. The landscape architecture firm established by Alexandra Caroline and Thomas had grown into a successful multi-generational business, with great-grandchildren who remained unaware of their connection to British royalty. The question now becomes whether we should reach out to these family members, Queen Camilla mused. They have built lives without knowledge of their royal heritage, and revealing this information could dramatically impact their privacy and security. The decision about how to handle the discovery would require careful consideration from the highest levels of the royal family and government. The existence of previously unknown royal descendants in America could have implications for succession laws, diplomatic relations, and public perceptions of royal history. As the day drew to a close, Queen Camilla reflected on the extraordinary turn of events that had begun with a routine security check and ended with the discovery of a hidden chapter in royal history. The courage shown by Princess Alexandra Caroline in choosing love over duty nearly a century earlier provided inspiration for facing contemporary challenges with grace and determination. 3 weeks after the discovery of Alexandra Caroline's hidden legacy, Queen Camilla made a decision that would ripple through both royal tradition and international diplomacy. She requested a private meeting with King Charles to discuss the profound implications of what had been uncovered, and to propose a course of action that honored both family history and contemporary royal responsibilities. The king listened with growing amazement as Camilla recounted the complete story of Alexandra Caroline's secret romance and subsequent life in America. The existence of previously unknown royal descendants living as ordinary Americans presented unprecedented challenges for the modern monarchy. This changes our understanding of royal history, Charles observed, studying copies of the documents that had been meticulously preserved by Margaret's family for nearly a century. Alexandra Caroline showed remarkable courage in choosing personal happiness over royal duty. The parallels between Alexandra Caroline's situation and their own journey to marriage were not lost on either Charles or Camilla. Both had faced years of public criticism and media scrutiny before their love was finally accepted by the British people. The discovery of a precedent for choosing love over convention provided validation for their own choices. I believe we have an obligation to acknowledge Alexandra Caroline's a branch of the family, Camilla said. She may have left England, but she never stopped being royal. Her descendants deserve to know their heritage, even if they choose not to embrace it publicly. The decision to reach out to Alexandra Caroline's American descendants required extensive planning and diplomatic consideration. The Foreign Office was consulted to ensure that contact with potential dual citizens wouldn't create legal complications, while security experts developed protocols for protecting the privacy of individuals who had lived their entire lives outside the public eye. Dr. Hartwell's research had identified the most direct descendant as Thomas Whitmore III, a 45-year-old landscape architect living in the Hamptons area of Long Island. He was the great-great-grandson of the original Thomas Whitmore and Princess Alexandra Caroline. and he continued the family tradition of creating beautiful gardens for wealthy clients. The approach to Thomas Whitmore required delicate handling. Rather than a formal royal contact that might overwhelm him, the decision was made to have Dr. Hartwell make the initial introduction as part of a historical research project about early 20th century landscape architecture. When Hartwell called Thomas Whitmore's office, she was struck by the warmth in his voice as he discussed his family's legacy in garden design. "My great-great-grandfather apparently had extraordinary talent," Thomas told her during their initial conversation. "Family stories suggest he worked on some very prestigious projects in England before coming to America, but we don't have much documentation from that period." The irony of Thomas unknowingly describing his royal ancestors' work on palace gardens was not lost on Hartwell. She carefully arranged to visit his Long Island studio under the pretext of researching historical landscape design techniques that had influenced American gardening. Thomas Whitmore III proved to be exactly the kind of person one might expect from a descendant of Alexandra Caroline and the original Thomas. He was articulate, passionate about his work, and possessed an innate elegance that suggested noble heritage even. Without knowledge of his royal connections, his studio was filled with photographs and drawings of elaborate gardens that bore striking resemblances to the designs found in palace grounds. When Hartwell showed him historical photographs of Sandringham's gardens, his recognition was immediate and profound. "These designs are remarkably similar to work my family has been creating for generations," Thomas observed, studying the images intently. "It's almost as if we've been unconsciously following patterns established by someone who understood beauty at the highest level." Hartwell knew that the moment had come to reveal the truth about his heritage. She carefully presented the documents and photographs that had been preserved by Margaret's family, watching as Thomas's expression changed from curiosity to amazement to something approaching disbelief. "You're telling me that my great-great-grandmother was a British princess?" Thomas asked, his voice barely above a whisper as he examined the marriage certificate and royal photographs. "This is absolutely extraordinary. I had no idea our family had any connection to royalty." The revelation transformed Thomas's understanding of his family's history and explained many previously puzzling elements of their traditions. His grandmother had always insisted on maintaining certain formal protocols in their home, speaking with an accent that seemed oddly refined for their American circumstances, and keeping family photographs that showed people dressed far more elegantly than their apparent social status would suggest. "My grandmother always said our family had specially heritage that we should honor even if we couldn't speak about it openly," Thomas reflected. "I thought she was just being dramatic about our landscape architecture legacy, but now I understand she was protecting a much larger secret." The meeting between Thomas Whitmore III and Queen Camilla was arranged at a private estate in upstate New York, away from media attention and public scrutiny. The encounter between the unknown royal descendant and the reigning queen consort was emotionally charged from the moment they were introduced. Camilla saw in Thomas the same dignified, bearing and warm personality that had characterized Alexandra Caroline in her journal entries. His genuine enthusiasm for his work, combined with his obvious integrity and kindness, made it clear that royal character had been passed down through the generations. Despite the family's separation from traditional royal life, "Your great-great-grandmother would be very proud of the life your family has built," Camilla told Thomas as they walked through the estate's gardens together. "She chose love over duty, and that choice has created a legacy of beauty and happiness that continues to this day." Thomas was deeply moved by the opportunity to learn about Alexandra Caroline directly from someone who had lived through similar challenges. Camilla shared insights from the princess's journal entries and letters, painting a picture of a young woman who had courageously chosen her own path despite enormous pressure to conform to royal expectations. "What strikes me most about her story is that she never regretted her choice," Camilla explained. "Even in her final letter to her brother, she expressed gratitude for the life she had built with your great-great-grandfather. She found happiness by following her heart." The conversation naturally turned to what Thomas wanted to do with his newfound knowledge of royal heritage. The revelation that he was technically in line for royal succession, albeit very distantly, was overwhelming for someone who had lived an entirely normal American life. "I think I understand why my family kept this secret for so long," Thomas reflected. The responsibility that comes with royal identity would change everything about how we live. We've built good lives by focusing on our work and our community rather than seeking attention or privilege. Thomas's mature response to learning about his royal heritage impressed everyone involved in the delicate process of revelation. His decision to maintain his privacy while honoring Alexandra Caroline's memory demonstrated the same wisdom and integrity that had characterized his royal ancestor. 6 months after the extraordinary discovery that began with a routine security check, Queen Camilla stood in the newly dedicated Alexandra Caroline Memorial Garden at Windsor Castle. The small, private garden had been designed by Thomas Whitmore III as a tribute to his royal ancestor and her choice to follow love over duty. The garden itself was a masterpiece of subtle beauty, incorporating design elements that had been passed down through 5 generations of the Whitmore family. Hidden among the roses and lavender were small plaques bearing quotes from Alexandra Caroline's journal, creating a lasting memorial to a princess who had chosen happiness over tradition. She would have loved this garden, Margaret Thornfield said, standing beside Queen Camilla as they admired the peaceful space. Margaret had been quietly honored for her role in preserving and sharing Alexandra Caroline's story, receiving a private commendation that recognized her decades of loyal service and her courage in revealing important family history. The resolution of the mysterious box incident had created ripple effects throughout the royal household and beyond. The revelation that staff members could harbor such significant secrets for decades prompted a review of security protocols, though it also led to a greater appreciation for the personal sacrifices made by those who serve the royal family. Thomas Whitmore III had chosen to maintain his privacy regarding his royal heritage, but he had developed an ongoing relationship with Queen Camilla and King Charles. His expertise in landscape architecture had led to his quiet involvement in several royal garden projects, allowing him to honor his family's legacy while continuing the work that had been passed down through generations. The most remarkable aspect of this entire experience, Queen Camilla reflected during a private interview about the incident, has been discovering that love and loyalty can take forms we never anticipated. Margaret's dedication to preserving Alexandra Caroline's story, Thomas's gracious handling of unexpected royal heritage, and the courage shown by a princess nearly a century ago all demonstrate the enduring power of following one's heart. The story of Alexandra Caroline had been carefully documented and added to the royal archives, ensuring that future historians would have access to this previously unknown chapter of royal history. However, the decision was made to keep the details private during the lifetime of Thomas Whitmore III and his family, respecting their choice to live normal lives away from royal scrutiny. Dr. Hartwell had been appointed as the official custodian of the Alexandra Caroline collection, responsible for preserving the documents and artifacts while conducting ongoing research into the princess's life in America. Her work had already uncovered additional letters and photographs that painted an even richer picture of the secret royal romance and its lasting consequences. The impact on Queen Camilla herself had been profound and transformative. The knowledge that she was not the first royal to face criticism for matters of the heart had provided comfort during difficult moments and strength to face ongoing challenges with greater confidence. Alexandra Caroline's story taught me that courage isn't about avoiding criticism. Camilla explained to her closest advisors, it's about making choices that honor both duty and love, even when those choices are difficult to understand or accept. The mysterious wooden box now resided in a place of honor in Queen Camilla's private study, serving as a daily reminder of the power of love to transcend time and circumstances. The electronic lock had been preserved as well, a symbol of how modern technology could be used to bridge historical gaps and deliver important messages across generations. Harrison, who had led the initial security response to the discovered box, found himself profoundly changed by the experience. The incident had taught him that security threats could sometimes be gifts in disguise, and that the most important protection he could provide was ensuring that significant family history could be shared safely and appropriately. This case reminded me that our job isn't just about preventing harm, Harrison explained to his security team during a training session about the incident. Sometimes we're also responsible for protecting the delivery of important truths that need to be heard by the right people at the right time. The children's hospital that Queen Camilla had been scheduled to visit on the day of the discovery had eventually received their royal visit, along with a special surprise. Queen Camilla had arranged for Thomas Whitmore III to design a healing garden for the hospital, incorporating some of the same plants and design principles that had been developed by his royal ancestors. The garden, completed just before Christmas, became a place of peace and reflection for young patients and their families. Hidden among the carefully chosen plants were small bronze plaques bearing inspirational messages about courage, hope, and the power of love to overcome obstacles. Margaret Thornfield had chosen to retire from royal service following the revelation of her family's secret, but she remained in close contact with Queen Camilla. Her cottage in Windsor Village became a gathering place for those who appreciated the importance of preserving family history and honoring the courage of previous generations. The broader implications of Alexandra Caroline's story extended beyond the royal family to influence discussions about love, duty, and personal choice in contemporary society. While the specific details remained private, the general lessons about following one's heart despite criticism resonated with people facing their own challenges between personal happiness and social expectations. The first anniversary of the discovery approached. Queen Camilla planned a private ceremony in the Alexandra Caroline Memorial Garden. The intimate gathering would include Margaret, Thomas Whitmore III, Dr. Hartwell Harrison, and other key figures who had been touched by the extraordinary story. A year ago, I thought I was simply going to visit sick children at a hospital, Queen Camilla mused as she prepared remarks for the anniversary ceremony. Instead, I discovered that I was part of a legacy of love that stretches across generations and continents. Alexandra Caroline's courage in choosing happiness over duty has inspired my own journey and reminded me that the heart often knows truth that tradition struggles to understand. The wooden box that had contained such precious secrets now served as a symbol of hope for anyone facing difficult choices between personal fulfillment and social expectations. Its message transcended royal circles to speak to universal themes of love, courage, and the importance of following one's authentic path through life. The extraordinary chain of events that began with a security alert had ultimately revealed that sometimes the most valuable discoveries come disguised as potential threats, and that the courage to love authentically creates legacies that endure far beyond any single lifetime.